It is truly insane. There is no awakening in this game, and it's not even close, that gives a DPS unit this much of a damage boost. It is completely and utterly broken. This awakening is nuts. I'm so happy I actually sat down and waited and did this testing on my account, because I can't tell you how ridiculous this feels to be doing.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
Well, at long last, I'm finally going to start awakening my heroes, and we're kicking it off today with Kagiri. This is a great place to start because he has some of the absolute strongest, most hero-transforming awakenings in this entire game. You guys might know, if you keep up with the channel, I'm a bit of a hoarder. So I actually have Kagiri here. I got the base copy, obviously. I have 5 copies of Kagiri. I've been summoning for him a lot over the past 2 limited selector banners, and I've been hoarding, waiting for a moment like this to make the video. These videos are very high effort. They take a lot of planning, and then I get all hung up on it and I keep procrastinating. That ends today. We're starting with Kagiri. I've got this A3 Wukong. We're going to compare him to A5. I've got 2 copies there. I've got this Vorn. We're going to see how that A1 helps us out. I've got a Numera. We're going to see how she scales from A1 to A5. I've got copies of that. It goes on and on and on. Mr. Neza over here, I got 3 copies of him. I'm a crazy person. But by making this first video with Kagiri and showing you guys exactly, with math, with testing, how powerful these awakenings are, I'm going to begin the process of knocking these out one after another, hopefully every other day. That's kind of my plan. So, the last thing you need to know before we get into the showcase and we get into the testing, this is going to be quite the video. I've prepared this table here. We are going to run some Kagiri damage testing at A0, where he is now, then A2, because I want people to see why it's not worth just throwing soul stones in on your way to A3, why you want to wait till you actually have 3 soul stones or 3 copies, and you can guarantee the A3. Then we'll do the very, very, very strong A3, and then we'll do the fantastic A5. Before we hop into that, I want to tell you, I do want to make like an ultimate how to use Kagiri, how does his kit work guide. Originally, I wanted to do this all together, but when I was doing my video pre-planning, I don't always do crazy pre-planning, but for big videos like this, I do. I was mapping it out and I was looking at it and I was like, this will be an hour and 20-minute video. Maybe an hour and 10 minutes. And I was like, I don't want that on my channel. It's not going to perform well. And I know a lot of you guys are going to get bored. I think this is valuable information. So what we're going to do now is I'll do a very quick overview of his kit and the key things you need to think about with the awakenings. And then I want to hop right into testing. This video is going to be a lot shorter. I'm going to speed up a ton of the testing. I'll show you the first test so you can see exactly how I am timing everything out. But after that, I'll do it like super sped up, maybe a little music, maybe a little speed up graphic effect or something. And we'll just bang it out and look at the final results. For when we finally reach A5, that first A5 test, I think we'll do together just to experience it and have fun. Then we'll do a sped up version of the second A5 test, and then we'll look at everything. So let's hop in. You can see with my testing, I'm going to do 2 runs of each. Kagiri up until A5 does have a tremendous amount of RNG. You'll hear about that in literally 25 seconds when we get into the kit. I could do more runs, but frankly, this is going to take me over an hour to film, and I just don't have the time to do like 5 runs of each. But take it with a grain of salt pre-A5 that there is going to be some variance because of one of his passives. So let's discuss that right now. But I do hope, unless we're really unlucky, the 2 runs should control for a decent amount of the variance. Obviously not all of it. So you'll see we'll take the average of the 2 and then we'll compare growth from one awakening to the next awakening jump to the next awakening jump to the next awakening jump. So what is that RNG skill I'm talking about? Well, if you're unfamiliar with Kagiri, I know a lot of people don't play the game in as hardo, crazy a manner as me and many other players. Like, I have many of the kits in this game memorized. When a new character comes out, I will read their kit over and over 10 times until I feel like I can explain it well and I understand it intuitively. Kagiri is a unit you kind of have to do that with, but I know a lot of players just like to follow guides or plug and play or just turn on auto and quick equip and whatever. It works a lot of the time. Like, you don't need to exactly know what Nasty is doing, for example. If you don't care, you can just copy a guide. Kagiri is not really like that. So there's a baseline level of knowledge you have to have. I will make that second ultimate Kagiri guide video. I think that's very important. But just so you understand what's happening in this video, you have to understand one mechanism in this kit. Well, I guess it's a couple things within one mechanism. He is a counter-attacking, parrying unit. he goes into this defensive stance where he like sheathes his weapon and then he strikes back. But the way he strikes back really can change because there's two kinds of strikes he has in his kit. He has a sweeping strike, which is good. He has an ember strike, which is very good. So you want to get as many ember strikes as possible. Let's start with this passive though, just so you can understand the RNG. Both of those strikes are good. That's where the vast majority of his damage comes from. He can deal these strikes both through his talent and from using his ult properly. When you do it through the ult, it's going to be synergistic with general damage in his kit as well because he gets this period of increased attack, which is essential. But this RNG moment is pretty significant. So every time he does a strike, whether it's the weaker but still good sweeping strike, or it's the very strong desirable ember strike, either strike is going to come with a 1 in 4 chance, a 25% chance to do it twice essentially. So he's sheathed, he's ready to parry and counter, ignore the damage, he gets hit, he strikes, then 25% of the time when he goes back to his original position, he can strike back again. So it's essentially a double hit. This happening 1 in 4 times is going to happen frequently, but obviously not that frequently. So you can have runs where it's triggering more like 35% of the time, and you can have runs where it's triggering more like 15% of the time. That's going to be a big gap. You're missing out on, a nice chunk of extra hits, which can be pretty huge damage. So this is very relevant to his kit in general, but particularly relevant to this video because we're doing awakening testing, right? And his A5 is so powerful because you lose that RNG in a very good way. So previously, right, it's a 1 in 4 chance every time that he'll get the extra hit on his way back. Now it's guaranteed. Every single time this passive will trigger. And he's doing sweeping strikes all the time. And if you time it out properly, which you're going to see in this video, he's going to do an ember strike every single ult. Now, how do you do the ember strike? We'll go into a lot more detail in the other video, but the TLDR is when he ults, he goes into that sheathed position. This is the only way he can do a strike outside of his talent. The talent is complicated, and we'll cover it in the ultimate guide. Basically, if you build him well, every 21 to 24 seconds, he's doing a sweeping strike. You cannot trigger the ember strike from the talent, all right? But it's just an extra way to get sweeping strikes. The ultimate, though, you can guarantee an ember strike if you're thoughtful about it. When you trigger the ultimate, he enters his sheathed stance, and he's ready to counterattack. But he will not counterattack and parry until he's attacked. Now, how quickly he is hit and has the opportunity to parry after entering the ultimate and entering that stance will determine whether or not he can use a sweeping strike or an ember strike. So this lasts 8 seconds. He'll be in that position for 8 seconds. If no one hits him after 8 seconds, he's just gonna go ahead and do a sweeping strike after 8 seconds. But that both wastes time of his ultimate, where you could have gotten it off already and then already started cycling to the next ultimate, and it's not an ember strike. To make the ember strike work, you need to be hit within 3 seconds of him entering the tranquil reflection parry state with this ultimate, right? And this is essential. So many people that are like, my Kagiri sucks, it's because you're not being thoughtful about the ultimate. So now you know that. We'll go into a lot more detail in the future video, but you basically have the baseline for Kagiri. So this is the Kagiri we're using today. I want to give a shout out to a viewer, Ghost Rider, who bought me this Kagiri skin. But this is my Kagiri. This is how I have him built. This is a pretty optimal build, though I've had to make some concessions, and you'll see that in 1 second as we go through the gear. I've got him in a nice Cataclysm set on the right side. I'm looking for high crit rate because I want to have one piece that I don't need crit rate on so I can get an extra chunk of stats. In particular, I want 1 rage regen roll. That's really relevant, especially at A0, just so I can cycle properly with him. I want 1 of those without sacrificing any attack. So having enough crit rate on 4 of my pieces so the 5th piece doesn't need it is pretty huge. Let's actually start with the ring. I would never run him in Cataclysm if you don't have a really good Watchguard ring or an even better Nightmare ring. This is kind of why Cataclysm is relevant. Otherwise, just run him in Soulbound Arcana. But if you do have a good ring, it obviously elevates him. Watchguard is going to be preferable. I re-rolled this piece. I'm not exaggerating. This was 2 days ago when I was prepping for this video. Exactly 30 times. I had 71 Giri casting hammers at the beginning, and I took that down to 41. Granted, it was already pretty good, nothing like this, but it was pretty good. But I was like, this is such a strong piece on my account. I want it to be very good. It took 30 tries. I kind of feel like they might have nerfed the Kagiri casting system, because normally it takes me like 10 to 15 tries. 15 even would be a pretty worst case scenario previously, and I've had this experience multiple times now. This just happened with another piece where it took me 28 tries too after this session. But this is great. I wanted to start here because if you don't, it doesn't have to be this good, but if you don't have a strong, 4 substat or 3 very, very good, well-rolled substat exclusive ring, otherwise Nightmare Council, if you don't have that, just don't bother. Soulbound Arcana, I'm sure you have better gear. Unless you don't, in which case do Cataclysm. But we're going to do that, so we're rocking Cataclysm. This is the piece where I wish the rolls were better, but at least we got huge attack and huge crit damage. This is the piece where I'm not doing crit rate, because I do want some extra rage regen. You can see because of that, I'm hunting big crit rate in my other stats. Big crit rate roll here, really nice piece. This is an excellent quad with a big crit rate roll and big attack on this Callista breastplate. And then I will tell you, as good as this exclusive ring looks, it's not perfect because 21.5% crit rate is kind of hard to work around if I'm ignoring crit rate on an entire other piece. So what I had to do is run this piece, which does have 3 enormous rolls, right, for attack bonus, crit rate, and crit damage, but I'm running defense bonus as the 4th substat, just because it's random and you can't use a transmutation on an exclusive piece of gear if it's not ancient or variant. So I wish this was rage regen, or I wish this was attack speed. It's not, but we'll live with it. What actually ended up happening is it's a slightly more realistic Kagiri build in terms of attack speed, more akin to what a lot of people are probably running. So you can see 400 attack speed. I think this is pretty standard. This is what you should aim for, probably as a minimum, maybe 350 as a minimum. You want him attacking pretty quickly because it's going to determine how often he deals damage, but also every basic attack will reduce the amount of time till his next sweeping strike from his talent, so that's really key. Aside from that, just pumping DPS to the moon. So we can look here and then we can hop right into battle. I think we're good to go. Almost 39k HP, over 35 is fine. Then we've got coming up towards 29k attack, 28,833. The only other relevant things, we talked about attack speed. I got that attack interval to 1.4 seconds. You really want it at most 1.5 seconds. So that's why I'm saying 350 attack speed or more. Crit capped, and then a very healthy, very good 362.1% crit damage. That's really high given how much I've pumped up the attack. Finally, especially if you don't have A1 or higher, you're going to want at least 1 rage regen roll somewhere. So I've got 19.5% rage regen right there. And that is my Kagiri. We'll do a full breakdown, a full deep dive, a really in-depth look on exactly how you can leverage your Kagiri to be as strong as possible, because I think a lot of people are messing that up in the other video. Right now, let's just get to testing and let's see what kind of damage we can deal with this guy. I'll tell you right out of the gate, this is a very, very good build on my Kagiri, especially for an A0 Kagiri. I put like a lot of my best gear on him, and he is actually going to keep pace in a really strong way, even in these first 2 runs on test number 1 at A0 compared to my A3 Wukong, who's also in crazy gear, right? This is a very nice variant, a very nice quad. This is another really nice quad with rage regen. This is a nightmare one. This is like just good enough to justify. Really, really nice quad here. I don't need that much crit rate. These are huge rolls, and then an excellent quad there, right? This is a really good Wukong. By the way, Wukong and Kagiri are both, all my guys are in really good artifacts, but you can see very nice. Kagiri, I don't have the attack bonus roll here, but I'm only showing you Wukong just so you can see how Kagiri compares. At A0, at A2, at A3, at A5, I think this A3 Wukong is a really good foil. So let's get into the testing. I'm not doing full runs. I want to keep this as a contained test. So what we're going to do is 3 phases. If you're unfamiliar with Abyss 1, this is where we're doing our testing today. It goes phase 1, that's the first round of physical damage. And it's phase 2, that's the first round of magic damage. Then phase 3, that's the second round of physical damage. And we're going to stop it right there. Already. We're just going to do 2 runs of physical damage, so phase 1 and phase 3, and I think that's a very solid baseline, and I want to keep this controlled. In future testing, because I'm going to be awakening like this whole team slowly but surely, right? I'm going to do an A3 versus A5 for my Wukong. I'm going to do an A0 versus A1 versus A2 for Vorn. I'm going to do an A1 versus A3 versus A5 for Numera. I've got an A0 versus A1 for Raijin, and then a very cool one, I've got A0 versus A1 for Narissa. I have all that prepped. I have all those extra copies. You'll see the run evolve, and eventually I'll put up a very large Abyss score on my account, but right now that's not the point. The point is testing. So without further ado, let's do this first run together so you see what it is, and then everything's going to make sense, And before you know it, we'll have done 1,000,000 tests, and we'll do one more thorough test again where we can all watch it together on A5, and we can see how things have really changed and how our Kagiri has really grown. All right, moving myself out of the way, let's hop into battle, and let me show you everything. So I'm gonna repeat exactly this process every time, 8 times over, twice for each test, 8 total runs. First things first, we're gonna place our Kagiri. This is the perfect spot right there. Then I'm gonna place Diao Chan, then Sun Wukong, then we're gonna place Aelin, then I'm gonna place Numera right here, then Nerissa. Take a moment here to turn Diao Chan to black mode and also pause it. This is how I'm deploying. These are my 3 supports, my 3 healers that are in Wings of Grace. These are my 3 most important DPS, so all these guys are getting the Wings of Grace buff. I will say Ryzen is going to perform very, very well, especially as you see more and more of these testings through different videos. So keep that in mind, but I really want that Kagiri Wukong comparison. So we're putting Wings of Grace on Wukong, Kagiri, and Numera, all right? Because Diao Chan, Aelin, and Nerissa are all wearing those sets. I can show you that in case you don't take my word for it in a second, but let's finish these deployments. I'm gonna put Vorn right here. I'm gonna put Ryzen right here. I'm gonna put Nastia right here. And then we've got Torador. Really quickly, I'll just show you Wings of Grace, right? It's really buried there, plus 12%. And we got Wings of Grace, plus 12%. And then we've got Wings of Grace, plus 12%. All right, we're good. Let's get into it. Overall stats. First things first, Kagiri, right? We're gonna go here. I can actually ult with Numera just because why not? Get a little decreased damage out. I'm gonna ult with Kagiri immediately. So look, this timer represents 8 seconds. So when it's halfway done, it's 4 seconds. So you really need it to trigger before this moment right here. 3 seconds. So trigger there within like a second and a half. We're good to go. He did an Ember Strike, good damage. Immediately, I'm gonna ult with Wukong. And like I said, guys, I'm not gonna walk you through every single run because it's gonna be the same run over and over, but this is the first run, so we have to kind of set everything up. Now we're just kind of settling in. I'll ult with Aelin and throw it on 2x even. It's gonna be the second Drake's Bellow. Wait. Toss this on 1x in a second. All right, Worm's Wrath, let's ult. Wait for Kagiri here. So you're gonna see these orbs appear. Ideally, you want to trigger Kagiri right at this moment. You can see I'm still waiting for his ult to come up. I think I should still just be able to get it. You can see it triggered right about there, which is good. Then I'm gonna ult with Ryzen with the shield up. Let's pop this thing. And as soon as the shield pops, I'm gonna ult with Sun Wukong. No reason to ult with Sun Wukong during the shielded portion because you're gonna waste the burst on the shield, not the vulnerable phase, if you can take the shield down without it. So that's what we're doing there. And you can see it's very, very respectable blood, but it's not crazy. You know, I'll do takeovers and I'm putting up 15k blood in the first phase. Here we're gonna be looking at something like 8 maybe. So that's it already. I can't cycle fast enough. As soon as you see this, is just an Abyss tip. As soon as you see this text, the boss has already changed. Even though he still looks purple, he is yellow. So I can already trigger Numera there. We can ult with these guys, it doesn't really matter. Just in case we needed a couple more Soulbound Arcana stacks for other people, but it doesn't matter. I'll ult with Aelin early here because this is still an easy first magic phase and I don't want to be too focused on it. We're going to ult with Numera immediately. Now the key thing with Kagiri here, you need him to live, right? So for this Meteoric Deluge that's coming, I like to wait till it's about halfway to a third done. Now I'm going to put him there. When he does parry, right, he doesn't take damage on that initial hit, so this will allow him to survive these huge hits from the Meteoric Deluge. So we go there. Here's a little Numera tip for you, kind of similar thing to Wukong. A huge amount of her damage comes from her Toxic Surge, exploding these poisons. So you want to get to the point where you have as many poisons at full stacks as possible. So we have what I call piles, 4 poison piles here. We want as many stacks up to 10 on all those piles, so it's a max of 40. We're at 36 right now. Additionally, if you can take down the shield without ulting with Numera, you want to do that, because then you want to ult with her during the vulnerable phase. So you can see we're at 37. There he pops the shield, 38. Now I'm going to ult with Numera. Now you're going to see all those poisons disappear. I actually got to 40, and now you see big damage for Numera. She actually just took the lead. So we're going to wait till this is at 4:14. That's when it switches over. And already we're getting towards the end of our test, right? That was phase 2. Now we're heading into the second phase of physical damage for Kagiri and Wukong in our actual testing. And that's going to be phase 3. And then we'll end it heading into phase 4 already. So here we go. Right at 4:14. As soon as I see that text pop up, You go Wukong, we go Kagiri. You can see Kagiri triggered there in 1/3 of a second, so guaranteed Ember Strike. Very strong. And you see Kagiri's like holding his own with this A3 Wukong even at A0. So you'll see throughout the video how much higher we're going to be able to get, and the jumps are going to be crazy, right, as he gets awakened. Here's a little tip just for general Abyss stuff. After he does the first Drake Speller, here's the Storm Surge. That's when you want to ult with Numera to make sure you get the decreased damage up. Ult with Aelin too. And ult with Wukong right away. I'm going to sit on Kagiri and wait and show you the perfect timings. After that Drake Spello, now we got the Worm's Wrath. I'm going to ult with Torador. Let's throw it on 1x. Now I'll show you the perfect timing when he's ready to go. We'll get it every other time because he's going to get raged better with Awakenings. Here comes the Orbs. Trigger. Even though it seems like he's going to trigger early, the damage will go into the shield. Don't worry. Let's ult with Ryzen. Take the shield down. If we need to, we can ult with Wukong. Looks like we should get it, though. Gonna be close. Yeah, we got it. So as soon as this pops, boom, ult with Wukong. And then this switches over at 306, I believe it is. So as soon as that happens, we're done. And then that's the end of test 1. There you go. 307, 306. The text appears. We're going to end the run, and let's look. So one thing to take a peek at, right? Sun Wukong's dealing 66.5 million. Ryzen's at 59.2. Kagiri's at 59.1. So A0 Kagiri, A0 Ryzen, neck and neck. I think that's pretty impressive from Kagiri, though it did require very good gear from my account. This overall damage, though, is all the damage they dealt to the dragon, the Drake, Sarion, and the damage we dealt into the shield. So when I actually quit the battle now, it will look slightly different. But here we go. That is where we are at. And that's where we can take down our first little bit of damage information. So let's go to stats here. And this is what we're looking at. Oh, they actually changed the way they show it. So it is the actual stats. So this is how I'm going to put it in. I mostly just only care about Kagiri and how his damage is growing. So that's what we're focusing on. At least for the first few runs, I want to track Wukong too, just so we can see how Kagiri compares, because I think A3 Wukong is something a lot of people have, if not A5. And then I think people are curious how Kagiri's damage is going to grow compared to that. So I'm going to round everything to the nearest 10th in millions, right? So this here would be 59.2 million. This would be 66.5 million. So we can go to the sheet and we can do exactly that. So what did I say? 59.2. And then if we go to Sun Wukong, I'll keep this Sun Wukong sheet at least just for a little bit. Wukong was 66.5. So I just pop that in and we're good to go. I don't think I'll do this for Wukong for every test. Maybe I will. But the key thing is this. We want to track Kagiri. This is our first result at A0. I'm going to run it again to hopefully control for variance. I'll see you guys in 1 second, and we'll see what happens on run 2. Let's go. All right, just hit the end of run 2, and you can see things do change, like there is variance, right? So that's why we're doing multiple runs. In the future, if I ever have a ton of time, maybe I'll do like 5 runs of everything, but I think this is pretty strong. So we can already put in now the finished result of our A0 testing, and then I will, for the first time ever, actually awaken one of these frickin' heroes after I've been putting everything off for so long. So you can see Kagiri went down a bit, Ryzen went up a nice bit, Sun Wukong went down a little bit. This is why, it is going to vary run to run. My inputs were almost identical. I really think I nailed it there. So Kagiri's 56.6, Wukong's going to be 64.3. Let's put that in right now. So that's going to go here, run 2 on test 1, 56.6. And then Sun Wukong is going to come in at 64.3. And there we have it. Let's keep filming together here. Before we do test 2, we actually have to do some awakenings, and I'll explain these upcoming awakenings and why they are cool, but they're not going to be as valuable as you think, and they're going to be nothing compared to the A3 that we're getting to very shortly. So at A0, Kagiri is Kagiri. It's the base version of the kit. A1 is good. It's going to keep him healthier, and it is going to let him rage cycle a bit faster, right? So when you get him A1, and we're doing this together now, let's rip off this Band-Aid, boom, A1 Kagiri. I was sitting on that dupe since the anniversary. That's when I got that first one. That's going to be our A1 Kagiri, when he does any basic attack. So remember, my Kagiri here is at a 1.4 second interval. Yours might be 1.3, it might be 1.5. That's kind of what you're aiming for. But every time he does one of those basics, he's getting 3 rage and he's healing himself by 3% HP. He's already pretty tanky, right? Because he's countering and parrying all the time, so he's not taking as much damage as a typical unit. And getting this healing on top of that is really, really good. If you had him at a 1.5 second attack interval, every 6 seconds he'd be healing himself for 12% of his HP. That's really reliable, that's really strong. The key thing though is gonna be this rage. So he gets 3 rage every basic. So if we think of that 6-second thing at a 1.5 second interval, he's getting 12 rage every 6 seconds. That's pretty significant. How much rage actually is that? What percentage? Well, his ultimate is 600 rage. It's a 600 ult cost, which means 3 rage is 0.5%. So if we think of that with the 6 seconds, I just think that's the cleanest way to think of it. Every 6 seconds, he's giving himself 2% rage, 0.5% per hit once he's A1 or higher, and he's putting out 4 hits. So effectively, this is a unique way for him to give himself 0.66% rage per second. If you want to think of it as almost a passive effect, as long as he has something to hit, that's relevant, right? Like that is going to help him cycle, especially when you get very advanced. If you have another rage regen unit out there, or if you're in Abyss and you've got like an A3 Moradin, then he might be able to get 3 ults off, not 2. Very, very strong. So this is good, but you're going to see through our testing that this is not changing anything because it's not going to be enough to hyper cycle. We're still going to do the 2 ults each phase. Now the next one is good, plus 300 attack, but plus 300 attack for Kagiri is not going to be as strong as the average unit. Plus 300 attack for him is actually less than plus 5% base attack because his base attack is already over 6,000, right? 5% of 6,000 would be 300. Here we're coming up on close to 6,500. So it is good. The more attack, the better. We're playing Attack of Realms, right? Attack is king, but let's make him A2 now, and let's get into the next tests. How much will this actually move the needle? A tiny bit, but not what you think. I'll give you a little sneak peek though, just to keep you engaged with the video. Once we get A3, this A3 will change everything. It's giving him constant, near permanent, ridiculous damage boosts. And that's why A3 Kagiri is so transformative. All right, I don't need to show you the testing again. We'll just pick it up at the end. I've got my A2 Kagiri now, so let's test him twice and let's see what happens. A2, let's go. So here's the first thing where we are gonna pause just on this initial test of A2. You can see now he's ready, right? So if we look here, before even the Worm's Wrath big things coming down, he already has his ult up. So we did get rage fast enough to make this a lot comfier, which is great. So there go the balls. Let's go with Ryzen. I'm gonna speed this back up. We'll check at the end. I actually was able to get his ult off before 522 when it switches over. There's not gonna be an attack though, so we won't get the benefit, I don't think. Yeah, the attack came right on the switch, but you can see a little bit more rage and then it would work, right? So that's where a Moradin or another rage regen comes in a big way. All right, back to the speed up. I will say I did get one more trigger of Kagiri that time, so that was pretty cool, right? So there's one bonus, that's a third ult. We're not able to get that without the rage. That will make a difference. That has to be acknowledged. And we won't speed up again because that's the very end right there. I just got it off. You can see that actually just pushed Kagiri to the top. So a little bit more blood, a little nice boost in damage. How significant was it? Was it marginal? Was it not? I would say it wasn't insignificant, but it wasn't so exciting, right? It's not worth the soul stones for what we saw happen. We will run it again, but let's just quickly put these numbers in. So Kagiri takes the lead here at 61.8. Wukong had a big drop to 61.6. Part of that is because we struggled with that last shield in phase 3, the second physical shield, where I had to use Wukong to take out the last little bit of the shield, so I couldn't save his ult the whole time. That was just unfortunate Kagiri and Ryzen RNG. We'll see what happens on run 2. But here we got Kagiri with a 61.8 and a Wukong with a 61.6. So Wukong's got a 61.6 on run 1 of test 2. I accidentally put in 66.1, 61.6, and Kagiri came in with the 61.8. So once I do run 2, we'll speed that up the whole thing right now unless there's something worth pausing and mentioning. I'll take the averages of both and we'll check the growth. Let's go. This time I didn't have to waste the Wukong a little bit. We got the shield down, so let's see how that changes it. We'll let this run out here. And that is going to be the end. So there we go, right past 306. We switched over. You can see, look how consistent these guys are bunched up all of a sudden. So what does A2 Kagiri do, at least from this testing? And I think this is very strong testing. We'll put in the data and I'll show you the growth. But basically, it makes him at the level for Abyss 1 of an A0 Ryzen of a A3 Wukong. Now, is that insignificant? No. Is that a huge growth? No. And I'm going to show you that right now. So let's put this in. Wukong's a 62.2. Kagiri is a 63.5. So 62.2. And Kagiri is a 63.5. I think I messed up where I put in the Wukong again, 62.2. I should have put him in here, whoopsie doopsie. And that's kind of the end of Wukong. I think we can refer back to these numbers because they're going to be very consistent. He's not changing, right? Kagiri's changing. And speaking of Kagiri changing, let's figure out that growth. So let's take the average here, boom. Let's take the average here, boom. And we can see he did grow, but by how much? Let me put in my formula. Obviously, there's no growth in the A0 because that's our baseline, so that stays a dash. But here to calculate it, we are going to do, wow, look at Google here. Yeah, basically you're gonna take the new minus the old over the old, and they're putting that in. So it's gonna be this here, 62.65 minus 57.9, that in parentheses, that calculated, and then over 57.9. Very cool. Google really helped me out here. I'm gonna turn this into a percentage so you can see. So what was the growth and damage? 8.2%. That is good, right? So like if you're desperate and you think 8.2% more damage from Kagiri, you can calculate it. Is that going to be the difference between whatever you're doing now in Nightmare 4 or Abyss 1 or blah, 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 blah? You know, exactly how much the growth is will depend on that specific content. Maybe in some content, going from A0 to A2 is a damage boost of, let's say 5%, sometimes it's 10%, but certainly it's never going to be 15 or 20%. If you want to see 15 or 20%, that's the A3. And personally, I'm of the opinion you should wait until you can hit the key essential awakening, not slowly chip away at it. So I don't think you should be like, oh, well, I've got one soulstone, let's make an A1 Kagiri. Oh, I've got 2, let's make an A2. I think you should be like, okay, I've got 3. I waited till I got 3, now let's make A3. The reason I advocate for this, and sorry for the tangent in a long video, is frankly because who knows if Kagiri 2.0 is gonna come out while you're waiting to get that 3rd soulstone or that 3rd copy or whatever it takes. If you have an A1 Kagiri while you're waiting for the 2nd one. Like, I just think that's the smart approach because anything can change at any time, or a new piece of content can change, and maybe all of a sudden, you know, Moradin's A3 is the most important awakening in the game. One piece of content could make that happen. However, the fun part of the video is finally beginning. I hope you guys have stuck with me. If you did, please do subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna move myself down here now because I realize I've been kind of in the way. I think you can figure out what it was. Otherwise, my editor will let me know and I'll send him pictures. But yeah, we did the A0 testing, we did the A2 testing, we have 4 runs left, and let me tell you, this A3 is something freaking else. So if you thought 8.2% was cool, I'm dying for you to see when he goes from A2 to A3, comparing that A0 to A3 and A2 to A3, but just seeing how strong it is. And I'm curious what the actual percentage is. So the way this works is, guys, within 10 seconds after he activates Sweeping Strike, this is the strike that you trigger through his talent, or if you mess up his ultimate and you don't get an Ember Strike. So if after entering Tranquil Reflection during the ultimate, you aren't able to have him parry within 3 seconds, it happens within 4 to 8 seconds, you're gonna deal with the Sweeping Strike that way. But you'll very reliably hit this through the talent. So within 10 seconds after Sweeping Strike is activated, each direct damage dealt inflicts an additional damage one time equal to 35% of direct damage. That's real. So every time he does a Sweeping Strike, he will deal 35% more damage for the subsequent 10 seconds. Within 10 seconds after he triggers an Ember Strike, you get another bonus. So same thing, but now each direct damage in the following 10 seconds inflicts additional damage 2 times, each time equal to 25% of the direct damage. So it's 2 instances of damage, 25%, that's 50% more damage for every direct damage hit in the 10 following seconds. These 2 damage boosts also stack, so if those are triggered in 10-second intervals that overlap with each other, every hit could be dealing the double hits of 25%, so 50% damage, and then the extra hit of 35%, so 85% damage with every instance of direct damage for that period. But it gets crazy and truly broken, and where I think they miscoded this, but it's too late to fix now, with the final part. When either of these strikes triggers swallow counter, the corresponding effect of this strike becomes permanent. So the first time you do sweeping strike and it triggers the swallow counter, that's where it deals the double damage, the second hit on the way back, the 1 in 4 chance. The first time that happens, now the effect of this 10-second thing is a permanent effect. So all future direct damage for the rest of the battle will come with an additional 35% damage, scaling off of that direct damage. 35% more damage for the rest of the battle. Now, the first time you do it with an Ember Strike, and this is where there is some RNG because those are tied to the ult, but the first time that 1 in 4 hits, you now have a permanent boost where additionally, you're going to get double hitters of direct damage equal to 25% of that direct damage for the rest of the battle. So once Kagiri has triggered a swallow counter on the sweeping strike, the double hitter from the passive, the 1 in 4 chance hits, and he's done it for the Ember Strike, the 1 in 4 chance hits, every single instance of direct damage for the remainder of the battle will be increased by 85%. So it's basically an 85% damage boost. It can take some RNG to line it up, at least when you have him A3, but if you want to sneak peek at A5, this makes it guaranteed. So after the first sweeping strike and the first Ember Strike, once he's A5, there's no more RNG, he will get the full A3 boost for the rest of the battle. That being said, for a longer battle, you are going to trigger these. Something like Semra, it's a hard guarantee. Here, it's like, where does it line up? But usually buy those hardest shields that people are going to get stuck on, unless you're still stuck on the first shield. But buy the third shield, the second physical shield, or the fifth shield, which is the third physical shield, you will have these max effects, and Kagiri will be going Berserker mode. So without further ado, we understand what's happening. Let's make him A3, something I've been waiting to do forever. My Kagiri is officially goated. And let's do some testing. I'm gonna do the testing really fast yet again. We'll check in at the end of the run and put it into our sheet. But let me tell you, I am pretty freaking excited. So let's hop into this and let's have some fun. All right, I'm gonna interrupt one time now and one time towards the end. But remember when this was close, when it was kind of like the Ryzen Wukong Kagiri show? It's not close anymore. You can see the overall stats. At A3, Kagiri is a new beast. He's dealing so much more damage, it is mind-boggling. Through a full 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 3, he was at 61 million as on his best run. I'm actually just gonna show you, right? 63.5. We're already passing 51 on the first phase. Let's actually see how high we can take this. It is insane how much stronger he gets. I mean, I've seen it so many times. I've been on so many accounts and done so many takeovers. By the way, if you're interested, you can check out my website. But I've never done it on my own account, and seeing this in real time right now is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Looks like we're gonna stall out here and not get an extra hit. We'll try just in case. We're gonna switch on 522, but there we go. Through the first phase, he's beaten his previous high score. So it took 2 phases before for him to put up a high score when he was at A2 of 63.5 million. He's now at 63.7 million, and we have a whole other phase to go. All right, I'm gonna speed this up and we'll pick it up towards the end of phase 3, our second physical damage moment for Kagiri A3 to shine. All right, let's pick it up here. We're at the end now. My Kagiri now has over 100 million damage, coming up on 105. Remember, like the first run, let's actually pause it. The first run in test 2, where we got the 61.8 and Wukong did so bad. Not so bad, but it's because I had to use Wukong early, right, into the shield, so it kind of threw things off a bit. Also, if you remember when we watched the end of this one together of run 2 with all of them, it was kind of like clunky and we had very little vulnerability window to actually truly lay out some damage. And it was kind of because Kagiri and Ryzen alone were having trouble with this shield with their low awakenings. So we had to wait, use a Wukong, whatever. Look how quickly we take it down now. Look at this thing disappear. It's no longer neck and neck. We're beating it by like 50%. Now pop goes the weasel, boom. Now we do Wukong, and now my Kagiri's at 124, 125 million. It is truly insane. There is no awakening in this game, and it's not even close, that gives a DPS unit this much of a damage boost. It is completely and utterly broken. This awakening is nuts. I'm so happy I actually sat down and waited and did this testing on my account, because I can't tell you how ridiculous this feels to be doing. Let's cut there, right, as we switch over. My Kagiri's at almost 130, almost 140 million. Let's cut it there, and you can just, it's crazy. Like, it is night and day in this content. And look, Wukong put up a big number, like, by his standards. Let's actually, we'll mark one more Wukong number here, but let's put in Kagiri at 138.2 million. doubling by more than doubling his previous best, 138.2. That is absurd. And then Wukong coming in with his second best score of the day at a 65.5. Holy crap. I mean, look at this difference, right? Like, we'll have to wait till run 2 so we can take the average. But previously, going from A0 to A2, we saw growth on average of 8.2% damage. We're about to see a growth of like 105% or whatever it is, right? I mean, it's completely and utterly absurd. Okay, let me do run number 2. If there's anything worth mentioning, I will, but probably we'll just go to the end on the results screen. We'll do some calculations, we'll have a chat, and then A5 is a glorious thing. All right, wish me luck. All right, here we go now, coming up on the end of the second run here. And there we have it as we switch over. So a bit less for Kagiri, and I'm actually really happy that happened, but you can see still a mind-bogglingly insanely high number. So let's quit out of the battle and let's take a peek. Why was there the variance? We probably just locked in the permanent effect later. Maybe I didn't hit the swallow counter, the double damage on your way back from the Ember Strike, or maybe not from the Sweeping Strike, so we just didn't lock in that permanent bonus. It's still an amazing result, right? But I'm glad it happened, because we're about to switch the conversation to A5, and A5 is where everything gets crazy because it's guaranteed. Every time you're getting the double hits every time, which is just more damage. You're getting the guaranteed lock-in on the first trigger of each on the permanent effect from the A3, which is obviously more damage, and it's really nice. But A3 already is plenty. For so many people, this is a strong enough Kagiri, if we did a full run, to get you a 60K. You need the team around it. You might have to deal with a little RNG occasionally until your gear is really good, but it is pretty Looney Tunes stuff. So this will be the last time we log Wukong. He's coming in at 65.1. I think we have enough data on him. Getting a little bored of him anyway. And then with Kagiri over here, you can see we got a 128.2, and there is some pretty significant variance, right? 128.2, we dropped exactly 10 million. Let's just double check that. Yeah, exactly a 10 million drop, which is, you know, when the numbers are this big, it's not the end of the world, but it's also very significant. And that's really relevant because let's take the average. You know, that could easily be the difference between getting a run and not getting a run, right? Like hitting that next threshold, hitting your 22K, your 35K, your 60K on Abyss, or maybe some other content, getting your Nightmare 4, 50K, wherever you're at. So you really do control for a ton of that variance from both the natural RNG of swallow counter, which is 1 in 4, and then that lock-in RNG of the A3. So it's going to be really nice now as we do our final test heading into A5, seeing what happens. But let's take this growth factor here. Let's make sure, yeah, this is going to show us 2 different things actually. So let me actually cut. All right, sorry guys, I just had to flesh this out a bit. Basically, I want to track the growth at multiple stages, right? So here, we're going to check the growth compared to A0. So to do that, I'm going to take this number here, subtract the A0 average, and there you go, it's filling it in for me. Put it over that, so you can see pretty freaking tremendous growth of 130%. Let's round that to the nearest 10th. Now here, I want to track the growth from A2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in our new number here, and I'm not going to subtract the A0, but should subtract the A2, put that over our A2 average, and now we'll get this growth. The growth from A2 is still extremely significant, right? I mean, look at that. So we saw growth going from A0 to A3 of 130% damage. We saw growth going from A2 to A3 of almost 113% damage. Both times we're over doubling it. Both times it is completely and utterly ridiculous stuff. And if you think of how he compares to Wukong, I'm not going to write this out, but we can do some math in our head. A0 Kagiri inferior to Wukong, right? A3 Wukong. A2 Kagiri kind of right on par with the averages depending on our run, but kind of right there. So, you know, we went from maybe 8% worse to Wukong to even with A3 Wukong when he was A2, and then when he's A3, we are doubling Wukong, right? He averages about 65 on a good one, maybe call it 64, 65, and we're putting up on average over 130, right? So that really is the difference. So to put it simply, A0 Kagiri is a little bit worse than A3 Sun Wukong in Abyss. A2 Kagiri is basically on par with A3 Sun Wukong and Abyss. A3 Kagiri compared to A3 Sun Wukong is basically twice as good. He's 2 times the unit, and in the longer battle, it might even be more extreme. It all depends exactly how you have him geared, blah, 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 blah. But holy moly, I just think the proof is in that pudding. So let's wrap this thing up. I know it's a long video, but I hope you're having as much fun as I'm having right now, and I think it's about to get even more fun, or about to have even more fun, as we do the A5. So obviously we have to talk about the A4 on our way to A5. So let's snag our second to last dupe. I was farming and summoning for these dupes like crazy. I can't tell you how much saving this took, but the A4 gives us 8% penetration. So this is ignoring defense because Kagiri is a physical damage dealer. You will see this effect a lot stronger in something like Semra or Matrix, where the defenses are a lot higher. The defense is not that high in Abyss 1, so this will be an improvement, but it wouldn't be very, very strong. I would expect maybe between 4 and 6% more damage. I'm sure it would fall in about that range. So if you're trying to think about what that would look like, I'm talking about going from A3. So on average, we're putting up, let's call it 130 million for Kagiri A3. Now you're talking about a boost of maybe 6 million more damage. So maybe on average, he's gonna be closer to 140. That is cool, but going from 130, 135 to 140, that's not that significant. This A5 though will be. Will it be as big a jump as going to the A3? No, I don't think anything is that. But let's do the A5 now. What exactly happens? Well, we talked about it before. The swallow counter, which is such an important move, right? Such an important passive. It enables the A3 and it enables all the chances for double damage. Well, that word chance leaves the equation at A5. So the typical version of it, pre-A5, you have a 1 in 4 chance to get an extra strike on your way back when he does any counter, either the sweeping strike or the ember strike. At A5, it will always trigger. You're always dealing double damage on his biggest hits, and that is insane. Let's give ourselves a nice treat, an A5 Kagiri, and that thing is beautiful. So without further ado, let's deal some damage. As promised, we will show this full test completely, just because I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Let's get the deploys out, and then let's just put on the hurt. Kagiri's going to go there, drop our Wukong, drop our Diao Chan, now our Wukong. There's Numera. Let's get Aelin. Let's get Narissa. Everyone has their Wings of Grace. Let's switch over. Let's go down the line here. Vorn, Ryzen, Nastia, and Mr. Torador, and we're cooking. If you're wondering why I always wait to do Numera at that point, it's just for Soulbound Arcana triggers, right? For any units like Horizon that are going to benefit. That's an extra stack since it's shared among the team. Let's get our first Kagiri hit. That's going to be a guaranteed Ember Strike lock-in. So now from this point, this early on in the battle, we're getting that double hit scaling off direct damage of 25%, right? So 50% more direct damage every single hit. I'm sure we've triggered a normal sweeping strike yet, and if we haven't, we're about to. And Kagiri is just going to completely dial in, and the damage is going to be completely and utterly ridiculous. So there's our Storm Surge. We'll get Aelin going. Let's turn on our Torador. Give it a moment. See, he's always ready now at post A1. Comes the hit. Boom, boom. Into Ryzen, boom. This thing, that shield just disappears. Instantly he falls, boom. Sun Wukong. Look at that damage. So our previous best was like 51 million. We're hitting that now with still about 18 seconds to go. So I think we're good for at least 60 million on this little chunk. There it is. There's the 60 million. Boom. It's not even ready to switch over yet. We can throw this on 2x quickly. 522 is the switch over. Not going to be able to get another hit from him, but I can trigger it. As soon as we see the switch over, I'm going to do Numera. And you can see we're coming in at almost 70 million now. So I think our previous best was about 51 million heading into phase 2, where, you know, Kagiri, Wukong, and everyone gets the phase off in terms of DPSing. This is the magic phase now. So we went from 51 to almost 70. It's ridiculous. Also, you remember we were heading into this phase before at about 8,000 blood. Now we're heading in at 12, 13, 14,000 blood. Absolutely absurd. It's kind of a night and day thing, right? The A3 is so ridiculous. The A5 is so ridiculous. These awakenings on this guy are so ridiculous. They really are. As soon as I can, I'm going to ult with Numera. Let's get a Wukong. Why not? I just do it because why not? He's not really dealing anything, but 18 more hits. That's exactly 18 more damage. Let's parry with Kagiri. Let's see. We're almost up to a full 40. Up, we're gonna do it at 39. Okay. Oh, actually, we just got the 40th there. This is gonna switch back over at 414. I'm getting ready. Throw it on 1x. As soon as it happens, I'll go Wukong, then Kagiri. Wukong, Kagiri. Kagiri hit there like half a second, so there's an Ember Strike, and look at this damage. Just keep your eye here. Just watch that thing go berserker mode. It's going sicko mode. It's going crazy. We'll still save Kagiri, but you can see if I had an A3 Morden, we're getting a whole extra Ember Strike every cycle for sure. And I will have an A3 Morden. That's on the table too. I've got a Morden dupe, and we've got 8 unpolished soulstones because I just do not use these things anymore. I'm a weird guy, guys. I'm a weird guy. Let's throw it on 1x. Let's time this out perfect. You see there's the big orb. Now you wait, and you're going to see the generation of a couple little purple orbs. Once they're there and start falling, we trigger Kagiri. Once they fall, I trigger Ryzen. Boom. And now watch how quickly we delete this thing. Look at that. It melts away. I'll tell you, we're already in good shape to take down the 5th shield with this comp, with these guys. The Kagiri is going to pass his previous high of 138 right now as the boss falls, so I think maybe we'll pass about a 150. It's going to switch over at 306. This is where we switch to Numera. Boom, that's where our test ends. He's just a hair under 150, so it is really good, right? But it's like, it's not beating our good RNG moment by that much. It's just another 10 million, 11 million, so it's great. It's something you're gonna want, and it's gonna help you in so much more content in stuff like Arena, if you're using him in Semron, if you're gonna use him in Matrix. It's very, very relevant, right? But it's not the difference that we got with the A3, not at all. So we'll do one more run after I put this in here. So Kagiri's coming in at 48.8 once I round to the 10th. So 148.8. We'll do the next one, and then you'll see. So we've tracked the growth from A0. Then when we could, we've tracked the growth from A2. Here we'll track the growth from A2 again, right? And A0, but now we can track the growth from A3. So we'll get that comparison, and that's where you're gonna see a much smaller percentage number. But still a very, very strong result. Let me head back in. I'll speed up the whole thing since I just showed you all of that. And yeah, you'll see me again in about 20, 25 seconds. Want to pause it here. You can see that first phase, we did exactly 69.5 again. Very interesting. We'll see what happens on phase 3, the second phase of Kagiri and everyone dealing damage. All right, guys, here we go, winding down here. Last little chunk of this fight. We'll see if we can get somehow one more Kagiri ult off. We cannot, we switch over, and that's where we call it. Very, very similar results, so that speaks to the consistency. So much of the RNG is out the window, and that is gonna show more significant growth because we were so close on both of these runs compared to on the A3 runs where there was, you know, pretty significant gap. Here the gap was like 1 million, there the gap was like 10 million. So this time we're coming in at 147.6 million for Kagiri, 147.6. I'm gonna do all these calculations very quickly, but you can see the average has risen about 15 million. So I'll just tell you off the bat, we're gonna see growth of about 12%, 13%, something like that. Give me 1 second to put all these formulas in, and then we'll chat. There you go, and you can see, guys, how drastic the improvement is. Undeniably, A3 is where the enormous boost comes from. That is just a fact. However, all the consistency comes from A5. A3 is going to be good enough for so much content. That's why I always say A5 Wukong is the priority over A5 Kagiri. But if you can't deal with that inconsistency, you're going to love that A5 Kagiri. So let's take a look. Going from A0 to A3, we saw growth of 130%, right? Going from A0 to A5, we saw growth of 156%. So compared to A0, it's an additional 26%. Or I guess more accurately, it's 25.9%. But very good in both cases. So much better than that growth from A0 to A2 of 8%. So we see growth of 8% compared to growth of 130% compared to growth of 156%. Going from A2 to A3, we saw growth of 112.6% with the A3 compared to a very strong growth of 136.6% in the A5. So compared to A2, that's another 24% damage going from A3 to A5. However, you can see the specific growth of just, if you're already at A3, going to A5 is 11.3%. So my guess at 12, my approximation was close. Could have been closer, should have said 11, but there you go. Is that nothing? No, of course it's not nothing. It's over 10% growth. That's really, really good. And you eliminate the headache of the inconsistency because, I mean, look at this, right? The average here is 5 million off of each of these plus or minus because this was a 10 million spread. Here, we're within 1.2 million. That is really, really strong. But I think the key takeaway is A3 Kagiri is completely busted and an absolute blast. A5 Kagiri is like a very nice thing and an ultimate luxury. If you can get it, please go ahead and get it. But I always think you need to get it after the ones that are a little more transformative in terms of raw output, not just peace of mind and consistency. But it is an eventual must-have, and it is completely brilliant. Look forward to my Wukong video, which is coming very soon, as well as my new Mera video. Wukong, I'm going to compare A3 to A5, so you can really see which is the superior investment, going from A3 Kagiri to A5 Kagiri, or going from A3 Sun Wukong to A5 Sun Wukong. And then Numero will be cool because we're doing A1 versus A3 versus A5, and you'll really get to see how good that A3 is. And one giant end result of this monster of a video. Huge thank you to my editor, Mitchell. He's going to have helped me put this whole thing together in terms of the video. This is a lot of footage, guys. We just passed an hour and 20 minutes. But one thing that also came out of this is I do now own an A5 Kagiri. And how pretty is that? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, you have to be subscribed to the channel. I mean, what are you doing? This is the pinnacle of what I do. Nerdy, deep dive, bullshit, where I try my very best to explain complicated kits in as simple, clean terms as possible. I hope I accomplished that today. Thank you so much. Give the video a thumbs up. Share it with your mother, guys. I've been Fastidious, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.